Hey, all my Crimsonites, and welcome to the Crimson Cure channel, where we embrace our femininity, increase our womanly values, and celebrate our brothers. So join me on our feminine journey to learn, heal, and grow. Hey there, my Crimsonites, and welcome to the Crimson Cure channel. I'm your host, femininity coach, and author of the Crimson Cure, and this is my perspective. So we're not going to be here long, but I called it when I talked about the narrative that's going to be spread, not about Black women from the so-called Freaknik documentary that should be released next year, but about Black men. They're going to start reinforcing the so-called widespread sexual predation that Black men are prone to, quote unquote, and they're going to be using the Freaknik footage in order to prove that that's what Black men have always been on. And I told you that was going to be the narrative. So we got Moist Lamont Hill. Let me go ahead and share. And here we go.
About this Freaknik documentary. A whole bunch of people talking about whose names and faces and voices and bodies are going to show up on this video from the 90s. And most of the conversation is about whether or not women will be exposed on this documentary, whether people's mamas and girlfriends and wives and daughters are going to show up in a Freaknik documentary. And I hear you. But that's the wrong issue. Look, I was outside in the 90s. I've been to Freaknik as an aspiring young journalist covering the story, of course. And when I was there, I saw what was happening. It's not just about women being half naked. It's not about women's hypersexuality. No, Freaknik is about men ogling, men fondling. Freaknik had a lot to do with male hypermasculinity and sexual violence. Freaknik is a rape fest. It is a sexual assault fest. That's not the only thing going on out there. I'm not trying to demonize or pathologize Black people, but if we're talking about the worst parts of Freaknik, it wasn't about the actions of women. It was about the disgusting actions of us men. And so when you watch Freaknik, you don't need to be worried about mama, daughter, sister, girlfriend. You need to be worried about brother, son, husband, or yourself, and whether or not you were engaged in some of the worst parts of patriarchal culture, whether you were part of the worst parts of rape culture and misogyny and sexual violence. When we talk about Freaknik and the way we talk about Freaknik, it's a representation of all the problems we have in a society that always blames women for the actions of men. So don't check the women, check yourself.
What'd I say? What did I say? And he got a Black man leading the charge for saying that narrative. You got Black rappers and so-called celebrities leading the charge to try to get Freaknik back started and spearheading this documentary that's supposed to come out. Gotta see the bigger picture at this point. Gotta see the bigger picture at this point. This is why I didn't really cook about these hyenas was hoeing at Freaknik. We already know that. See, this is why I said what I said about spinning a narrative onto Black men, because that Freaknik documentary is not going to expose the debauchery of Black women. Everybody can see the debauchery of Black women. Black women expose themselves, especially today. They put that on their own account, on their own social media. That's not news. That to see Black women twerking somewhere being inappropriate, that's not news. To see a Black woman somewhere being over sexualizing herself, that's not news, right? They do that anyway. They don't need a Freaknik documentary to expose something that we quote unquote don't know about Black women. The world know that about Black women. The world see Black women as concubines and whores already. So that documentary is not going to offer any new perspective about that. But what they will do is reiterate the same narrative about Black men being these sexual predators, the same way that they introduced it in that very first Birth of a Nation that came out in 1915, The Klansman, and where they depicted Black men as these ogres, and these monsters. Okay. So like I said in the first go round, there is no statute of limitation on Me Tooing people. In this current climate, and I told you another thing that he said. He's talking about the patriarchy. He's talking about Black men participating in the worst parts of misogyny and patriarchy and toxic masculinity, all this other kind of stuff. You know, I told you that this documentary is going to be viewed through the lens of the culture today, not through the lens of what was going on in the 90s and how Gen X saw that in the 90s and how the world saw it in the 90s. They saw young people up to shenanigans. That is what they saw. Okay. Now they're going to see illicit essay. They're going to see grapes and all of this other type of stuff. That's what they're going to see. Please excuse the noise. They're going to see those types of things. So I just wanted to bring that to everybody's attention. That is a cat, by the way, that's on his own thing, for those of you who are wondering. There's nothing wrong with the cat. There's nothing physically wrong with that cat. Anyways, since I know you can hear it, I might as well address it. But anyways, I just wanted to bring that to everybody's attention. It's not a long thing. I just want to bring that to everybody's attention, that I called it, and I called it correctly. I know what I'm talking about around here. This ain't about exposing Black women, although Black women will be exposed. But in order to cover that exposure, in order to cover that shame, in order to cover her own accountability and not take accountability for anything that she participated in at Freaknik, she will throw a Black man under the bus real quick. Oh, he raped me. Oh, he felt on me. Oh, I was drunk. I couldn't consent. They was passing out pills and drugs and this and that. And, you know, we was getting high, and they got me high and they took advantage of me. And that's why, you know, there was a train ran, because I wasn't even conscious. And that may or may not even be true. But she gonna say it, and we've already had precedent set in the court systems of this country that a Black man, no matter his position, no matter his current position in life, can always be brought back to something that happened 30 years ago, literally 30 years ago, without any proof, without nothing but her word. And he can have his whole life stripped and go to jail and be a convict. Yes, indeed. You heard it here first. Just wanted to just let you know. We know what we talking about around here. Anyway, thank everybody for tuning in. Jump down in the comment section. Let me know what you think. Like, share, subscribe to the channel if you have not. Once again, I'm your host, The Crimson Cure, and this was my perspective. Bye-bye, Crimsonites.